North South Connection, time for another What If No Holds Barred special edition, video only here on the North South Connection YouTube channel.
That's right.
Of course, we are on simulcast a lot of our content, Aaron, both audio and video. A lot of stuff
Mhm.
here on this YouTube, a lot of stuff on any podcast application on the North South Connection, but these are video only. So
This is
subscribe.
only for the people who have
This is it.
sight.
That's it.
If you don't have sight,
well, you could, yeah.
if you're
You can
deaf,
still
you
listen.
can't.
So you
This
can
will,
still listen.
I guess.
You can
Yeah.
imagine.
I guess you could put the closed captions on. Are those accurate?
Well, those would be if you're deaf.
Well, that's what I mean. Like,
You
because
said if you're blind.
I know this is for the blind. Like, this is like, oh no.
Let's just move on.
I'm
All right. So listen, we're here, Aaron.
Hold on, I gotta get this.
If you're not turned off by this, every Saturday we're here at No Holds Barred. We do drafts. We do. We're doing a project. We watch every WWE World Title change ever. So we're doing a lot of cool stuff. But then we do these every week. I don't know, maybe 3 times a month or so. We do these what ifs, and we take listener and viewer submissions. And that's what we're going to do here tonight. So this one is from our good buddy John Bergman. And that
Bergman.
I was saying, it reminded me of Alec Berg right away from Seinfeld. But
it made me think of Barry Berkman.
Yes, but don't tell me anything else. I'm only in episode 2 of season 2.
I'm in episode 2 of season 3.
Okay, so can't talk. The season 1 finale definitely surprised me. I'll say that.
I can't remember what happened in it.
Detective.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So we'll leave it there.
Okay.
So anyway, that's where we're at. But anyway, our good friend John Bergman sent. You know what? He sent a really nice note on Twitter, and I meant this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna read the whole thing because I thought it was cool. He said, "Hello, No-So. Tip of the hat to all, as I consume and enjoy a lot of your shows. Speaking of which, whatever happens to Jeff Learns Wrestling?" And I told him, like Frosty the Snowman, Jeff Learns Wrestling is never too far away. Could come back someday. So always keep an eye to the sky there. But he digresses and says he's writing with a suggestion of a what-if topic. As you seem to welcome suggestions, and yes, we do, my friend. It's perhaps
openly
one of the most
soliciting them.
Openly, yes. It is perhaps one of the most intriguing questions of 80s wrestling. What if Vince McMahon had selected Kerry Von Erich instead of Hulk Hogan to defeat the Iron Sheik and spearhead rock and wrestling? I realize this topic has been batted around in the past on Place to Be, but I'd enjoy to hear hosts JT and Aaron gnaw on it. Thanks to the great shows. And much love to you, John. Thanks for the support and the comment. Reach out at any time. So I think we'll cover this one here tonight, my friend.
Yes, love it. I love the suggestion. Thank you, brother, for it. All right, it's kind of like this is an interesting one because what's your gut? What's your gut tell you?
Is it my gut is it's a fucking mistake.
Yeah, me too. And that's my gut also.
I think it's cool in the short term. Like, I mean, so when's the big win over Flair? That's 82.
Yeah,
and that looks awesome. Like if you watch that like kind of remastered version that's out there, like it looks phenomenal. Like the crowd is nuts. It's a big moment. He's a megastar in the mid 80s. So I think like the decision isn't bad if he does it.
He's
justifiable.
He's a competent like I'd say like because have we ever done the one where like or have we talked about if it wasn't Hogan, who would it be?
I don't think we've done that as a what if. I mean,
no.
I've done so many freaking podcasts. I'm sure I talked about it at some point. Like you always hear Slaughter thrown around. You hear Snuka thrown around.
But Von Erich feels like a better option than any of those.
Yes.
Like
you get JYD is another one that gets like tossed out.
He wasn't there yet. Like I mean,
but they could have. They could have brought him in from Mid South or whatever. He was big in Mid South.
But I'm thinking of guys like that are kind of at least hovering around that roster, right?
Yeah. Well, Von Erich wasn't though.
No, that's what I mean. But that's why I'm comparing Von Erich to the potentials that could have been.
Yeah, I would say he's your best bet. I mean, Dusty, maybe. Like if they bring him in as a surprise and he beats Sheik and MSG, like I think maybe you can get a few. You don't get a Hogan run out of him, but I think you get a couple years anyway to like get established. But I think Von Erich, I would say that's like that's the closest to Hogan you're gonna get. Big dude, young dude, marketable, movie star vibe, rock star vibe,
horse face.
Yeah, horse face, horse steroids. And he, he comes in, beats Sheik. I think one thing you lose though is the notoriety. So not just that Hogan had been in MSG before, not that just that he was a big deal in the AWA, because I would say that's on par with Von Erich being a big deal in world class. Like maybe a little bit more, but because they were on pay-per-view and stuff. So like Super Clash was like a big show and all that.
Yeah.
But Rocky, I mean Rocky 3,
Yeah.
right? So Hogan was in a major like
he's the ultimate
franchise
male
movie. Yeah, franchise movie. You know, so like that was a big deal. So
yeah,
you know, it's hard to compare to that. But I do think tail of the tape, Von Erich stacks up, and
except
yeah,
there's one category he doesn't stack up in, and it's the most important one.
Yeah,
it's the charisma, and it's not that.
No, I think he's got charisma.
Not
I just think
to the level of Hogan.
No, but no one
like.
Does. So it's almost like the answer is no one. But if it is Von Erich, I think the connection is there, but the talking is not there. So I would wonder if they did bring him in, if they would do the old, like put him with Albano or Talker, because I mean it wasn't uncommon for the top babyface to have a manager. Like
Backlund had a manager
Scotland,
the whole time.
Yeah. So it wouldn't shock me if they put him with someone who could talk for him.
In fact, it's probably Scotland.
Yeah, or Albano. I think it could have been Albano.
But Scotland makes sense in the storyline, right?
Yeah.
Like I lost this guy the title, I'm going to get the title back. But
Scotland's not bombastic. Like I think if you're going to Rock and Wrestling and you're like blowing it up with MTV, like Scotland's an old fucking man. Like Albano was part of Rock and Wrestling. You have to turn him face a little sooner, but he's with Lauper, he's with Piper, like he's all over the place.
I don't think you get Rock and Wrestling without Hogan at all, though. I think if Von Erich's in that position from 84, there's no Rock and Wrestling. Because
I don't know.
Because for me, and this like, normally we go into these like blind, but I actually saw this one yesterday, right? So like for me, it's like that era needs the cartoon level of Hulk Hogan for it to get to that level of notoriety, for it to get to that level of popularity.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Hogan wasn't that guy in 83, 84. He gets there over the next year by the way they approach pushing him, like where he starts to really kind of be more larger than life. Like when he shows up at that MSG, he's just like a big fucking dude that wrecks the Iron Sheik.
But you can see it. You can see it though. You can see the glimpses of what
Have you seen enough Von Erich in 82, 83 though to know like he doesn't have that same
I haven't, so I'm talking out of my ass, obviously. Yeah. But when it's a tough comparison because my big experience with Von Erich is during the Texas Tornado run,
and he's strung out by that point. I mean, he's baked in that point.
It's almost not fair. And what you said something earlier that it I think is the answer to the question, where it was like no one has Hogan's charisma, so it's no one then. And I actually think that's probably the truth. Like
I think Dusty's the only guy who has his charisma.
Yeah.
But the problem is Dusty doesn't have the look in a superhero vibe, right? So like Dusty Andres, like that's not happening. You know what I mean? So I think Dusty buys you a couple of years because he can until they figure it out. But no, I think it's one of those what ifs that everyone always wants to solve, but I just don't think there's a viable answer. I mean,
well, there is. It's just it's different. It just like no one will bring it to the same level, right? No. So the what if ends up being, well, then if the WWF doesn't get that foothold the way it does, how does wrestling evolve? Right? Because wrestling becomes like, I mean, I would say this is even still true that like people don't say pro wrestling, they say WWE, right? Even when they're referring to AEW or TNA or whatever, right?
Or so, WWF.
Like, many of them still say that, right? Yeah. I still say that by accident. So it's like, what does the rest of that world look like? Because I think no matter who you put in that position, I don't think there's a Rock and Wrestling to the level that Hogan brought it to. Hogan just had that special thing, like that connection. And again, it's not to shit on Von Erich's connection. Like, and again, I'm speaking from a bit of an experience with him, but it's not the same as like I can't see anyone.
I think it depends if they could work with him, right? Because he I think he tops out in world class because it's local. He can lean on the family, like So if he suddenly is like with Vince and Piper and Mean Gene and like all these guys, like can his charisma be raised up a little bit and that connection be there? I still think the big core problem is like if he was falling into drug habits in a small regional where, I mean, I know I'm not trying to downplay that scenario because it could be almost worse being the hometown hero than it is like a national hero, if that makes sense. Like you're a hometown hero, everything's free, everyone's like fawning over you at all, like you're inflated, right?
Yeah.
But national, like this dude's touring all the time. The coke's flowing through the 80s WWF locker room. Like
he's in pain. He's going to be in pain.
Yeah. So he's probably going to flame out anyway. So that's what I'm saying. Like you may get a couple years out of him, but I don't think you're getting to 91 with him. And that's why Hogan, and we know he wasn't immune to the drug stuff. I mean, he was doing it, but for whatever reason, he was able to be functional with it and not. He was a recreational user and not like a hardcore addict like Von Erich.
Yeah, I always get the impression that, I mean, I could be completely wrong, but Hogan wasn't he wasn't taking a ton of pills for pain all the time. You know what I mean?
No, I think he just did coke like everyone else in the 80s.
Or smoking weed and drinking. Like that's that, and steroids, obviously, but whatever.
I want to throw a name out of really right field to you of a guy.
Okay. Larry Walker.
Wasn't he left field? I think he put.
No, he is right. Moises Alou was left field, and Marquise Grissom was the center field. Anyway.
What a team! What a waste!
Oh fuck, he was so good. And they're not even the best outfielders. Andre Dawson, Tim Raines. Anyway, go on. Sorry.
Well, and then they try to say like Walker was, he's good because he's in Coors. I'm like, he was fucking nasty before that.
Dude, he was. I think he never won a batting title, but he was always right there.
What about Mr. T?
How much are they going to train him?
Say he commits full time out of A-Team. He does Rocky 3, right?
Yeah.
As Clubber Lang, so he's a movie star. He does the A-Team, and he's like, I got bit by the fighting bug doing Rocky, and Vince throws $1 million fucking dollars at him to come in and be the guy. So they train him up. I mean, I think Hogan's underrated in ring, especially in the mid 80s. But I think T could probably replicate some of that. He can talk. He's got the look.
Yeah. I think it's a good choice comparatively to others in the position. It will never be as good as Hogan.
Is Andre too cooked?
Yeah.
Even if you go 83 to 85, like Andre,
I think he's been there too long. Like I think the big thing that happened because Andre was there since the mid 70s, right? Like on and off.
Well, in and out, but yeah.
Yeah, but so he was a staple of those MSG shows, right? Like I think Hogan is like a perfect storm of novelty and charisma, in-ring ability, but not necessarily his. Look, he's not Eddie Guerrero, right? But
he was a great worker. I mean, I think he's a great worker. 84, 85, 86, especially. Like he's got some great matches.
I would even argue that some of the. I mean, I mention this every podcast, but like I'm watching his heel run in WCW right now, and like I know the matches, the Hogan heel matches, are not well regarded, but he's got some fucking actually good work in there in some of them. Like
and the stuff I think what happens is being on the road as much as he was, like to avoid breaking down, he just fell into a formula that worked, and it's like, why am I going to fuck with this formula?
Well, he didn't need to because the guy
protected his body as much as the leg drop fucked him up in the end, but protect his body quite a bit. But if you watch a lot of those MSGs, I know you have 84, 85, 86.
He's great.
Yeah, there's some fantastic stuff in there. So I think, yes, I think he's underrated there. I don't think there's an answer. I think T to me feels like the most likely to get you to rock and wrestling.
Yeah.
I think just because of his appeal, you stick T in there with whoever. Yeah. You could even bring JYD in early and do, Mr. T and JYD versus Orndorff and Piper. No, right? I mean, JYD is there, right? He's there by one. So you could do. You could do that, and you might elevate JYD even more by putting with Mr. T. So
I think with Mr. T, I'm curious if the thing with Mr. T is I wonder if people stick around for Mr. T, after a year with the way because what happened? It's like the typical celebrity thing, right? Like you do the celebrity,
but he's not a celebrity anymore. To me,
but is he still right?
No, he's done with A-Team. He's done he says I'm going full on WWF wrestling. He's like Ernie Ladd, and he just becomes a wrestler. He's he's not a celebrity. He's not like Logan Paul wrestling every now and then. To me, he's all in. I'm like Mongo, whoever you want to say is full on pro wrestler from this day on. He trains, he has a big upset of Iron Sheik out of nowhere because he's been training with Albano or whoever, Scotland, whoever it is, Backlund. You know, he comes out, he beats Sheik. All of a sudden, he's got this unlikely world champion. And because he's got the boxing skill with the brawling skill, like he becomes a dominant champion out of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm curious because it feels like Mr. T as a thing feels like I could be wrong, but it feels like something I would get tired of if he was the main focus. Like in the A Team, he's one of 4, right? In Rocky, he's the villain. Like,
it's hard to know if he would develop more shtick or not.
That's it. Like, whereas I could watch a wrestling program with Hogan. That's just so easy to say because that's what we had, right?
Yeah, it's hard to know if does he go beyond just pity the fool, whatever. Like, you know, does he evolve? Because Hogan evolves. I mean, right? He's the incredible Hulk Hogan at first, but by the end, he's got the Demandments and all this other shit. Like the Hulkamaniacs. Like that all comes later. He doesn't have that out of the gate. So it's like.
Now let's just throw another wrench into this whole thing, which I'm actually a bit worried to talk about, but it is what it is. Like, do you think Vince actually gets behind an African American superstar in that era? Yeah. I mean, he doesn't. Yeah. It's taken him what, like 30 years to come around and actually give people those kind of chances.
I think if there's money to be made and this dude's a big star, he would do it. And I think he wanted to push JYD. I think JYD is broke down. I mean, JYD is presented as a top guy, and I know Snuka's not African American, right? But he's a minority wrestler, and like he gets a big push until he murders a woman. And it's like, and even then they didn't derail him.
Keep pushing him. I don't like Vince's track record with that. Like,
I feel like that comes, I know, but I feel like all of wrestling is stereotypical bullshit in that era, right? So, but I think T transcends. I'm not saying like anyone else, but I think T could have potentially transcended that because he's already a star.
Look, I get the sense that if Muhammad Ali wanted to wrestle, Vince would have pushed him to the top, right?
And Vince loved Ernie Ladd. He loved. I mean, like I think like
but he never made Ernie Ladd the champ. You know what I mean? Like,
but he could have. Like he was. Ernie Ladd was done by the time Vince Jr.
No, I know, but like, it's not like he hasn't had the opportunity even past that to put someone.
Well, then he had Hogan.
Yeah,
he wasn't gonna take it off Hogan. I mean, again, I'm not defending him; he's a piece of shit. But whatever. Yeah. Like my point is, I think when push comes to shove with him, the one thing he usually would do is money. Like if he saw money in T, especially at WrestleMania 1, like where you need to deliver, or MTV, like if the MTV came to him, or Ebersol came to him and said, if you have Mr. T, you get Saturday's Main Event, you get we'll back WrestleMania 1, like whatever it is, like he's
but it's telling that WrestleMania Main Event is not T on his own, right? Like,
well, because again they had Hogan already.
But of course, but you know what I mean. Like, and I guess WrestleMania 2 they put him on his own, but it's not.
Yeah, he just wasn't a wrestler then. In this world we're doing,
he's a wrestler.
He's pushed since '84 or January of '84 as a wrestler.
Yeah, if we're like, will Vince push him or not? I don't know if WrestleMania 1 is the best example. You know what I mean? Because WrestleMania 1, he's just surrounded by so much.
It's I think though, my point was, I think if in that world he becomes a wrestler, we're debating if Vince would do whatever for money, right? So my only point was, if you have T as a wrestler and Ebersol comes to him and says, "Oh, you make this guy your champion, I'm going to put you on NBC," like he'd do it. I think that outweighs whatever other nature he has, right?
I don't think he's a raging racist. I just think that he has a hang up with that for whatever reason. And it's I will say it feels like it's better now than it's been.
Right.
But again, is he able to take the company national without a Hogan?
I don't know. Like again, I think
hard, right?
I hate to stick on T, but I feel like that's maybe the bet one because he's nationally known. Yeah. Like I think Von Erich comes regionally. Because I think what I'm clinging to with T is that he follows a similar path to Hogan.
Yeah.
As far as like being in Rocky 3, being a name, he's on TV. Like I mean, Hogan, he was known in New York a little bit as a heel, and then AWA was big enough, I think.
Right.
Layer in Rocky 3.
What about Flair?
Yeah.
As a babyface, though, he's such a good babyface, but it's not big enough. He's not the superhero. That's in all of it. It's that Hogan is a superhero.
That's why I like Mr. Bergman's suggestion of Von Erich, because I think if you had like Von Erich's look with like T's charisma and presence, like maybe that, or Flair's charisma, or whatever.
Yeah.
I think Von Erich It's Roxette got the look, but it's like,
No.
All right, let's end there. Great What If. Thank you, Mr. Bergman. We'll be back in a couple of weeks or next week sometime on another What If. Leave us a comment on this video or on any social media if you have any suggestions. We're banking them. We're going to get through them. You know, we obviously do a bunch of these at a time sometimes. So it's like, if you don't hear your suggestion for a few weeks, that doesn't mean we're not going to do it. We're just kind of catching up to the backlog. So we'll get to it. We promise. Check out everything. No Stop Connection. Subscribe, like, love. Goodbye. We'll see you on Saturday. No holds barred.